Now you know how to get the user's location and also how to display a map showing any location. The next step should be fairly obvious, and that is to create an app with a map that's centered on the user's location. And that's what we're going to be doing in this video, and in fact I'm going to set it as a challenge. So I would recommend starting with the Google Maps activity as a new app and then setting up the location code so that it asks the user for permission, and then when it has it, displays the user's location on the map. Best of luck, go for it. All right, I hope you managed that. It was just a combination of the last 2 videos worth of code. So I'll show you how I would have done it. So we'll start with a new project. I'll call it Map and Location Demo. And we'll stick with Marshmallow and a Google Maps activity. And off we go. So I'm going to start by grabbing my Map Demo app, which contains my Google Maps API key. As I mentioned, I wouldn't recommend sharing keys between apps for apps that are actually going onto the App Store, but if you're just testing things out, it's perfectly fine. So over in my Google Maps Demo app, I'm going to go to the Google Maps API.xml file and then just copy my Google Maps key, and then I'll head back over to my new app, Map and Location Demo, and paste the key in there. Great. I'll set the app running on my Android 6 device. And while that's going, I'll jump over to the Maps activity code and remind myself what's going on here. So remember, we've got the onCreate method as we're used to. We also have the onMapReady method. So I'm going to be writing my code in that because I don't want to be updating the center of the map until the map is ready to be updated. I have had an error installing the API. I did just get an error installing the APK, which I do get occasionally. When that happens, I usually shut down the emulator and restart it. So I'll do that when the app is ready. Okay, code-wise, we're going to need our location manager, called Location Manager, and also our location listener, called Location Listener. And then we can automatically include the classes for those, and also Location Listener. Okay, so now down here in onMapReady, we'll set up our Location Manager. So this is going to be cast as a Location Manager, and we're going to get it from this context and get system service, and the system service that we want is context.location service. In fact, that does remind me I need to add the permission in the manifest. That's very handy. So the Google Maps activity automatically puts the access find location permission in the manifest for you. Very useful. Okay, now we set up our location listener. This is going to be a new location listener. And on location change, this time, just for a bit of variety, I'm going to toast the location rather than putting it in the logs. Obviously, once we've convinced ourselves that everything's working, we'll update the map with the location, but I'll leave that till a little later. And we're not going to edit any of those. We'll leave those as is. Then we'll do our check to see if the build version STK int is less than 23. Then we want to take our location manager and request location updates using location manager.gps provider, and we'll stick to 0, 0, so we'll update it in 0 seconds and 0 meters, so essentially any change of location will be made aware of, and we'll use our location listener to process that. And then if that's not the case, we need to ask for permission, and we do that using context compatibility dot check self permission, and the context is this, and the permission we want to check is manifest. Just manifest dot permission dot access find location, and we want to check to see if that's not equal to package manager dot permission granted. So if it's not granted, we need to check for permission using activity compat dot request permissions, and we want to request them for this activity, and the string array that we want to request is just a single string, which is manifest dot permission dot access find location, and then we add our little number 1 on the end to that as our kind of ID number. And if that's not the case, then we must have permission. So let's kick off our location listener. All right, we're nearly there. While that's happening, I'm just going to run the app again to get the device going. And then up here, we're going to add our code to the on request permissions result. There we go. And again, just for a bit of variety, we'll do a little check to see if request code is equal to 1, which we know it will be because there's only a single request in this app, but just to show you how we would use request code if we wanted to. We'll then do a check to see if, and just to show you why we do a double check, if we used grant results 0 is equal to package manager dot permission granted, if we just use that, we might get an error because there might not be a 0th item in grant results. It might be an empty array. So to check that, we use grant results dot length and check that that is greater than 0 first, and then we check that the first result is permission granted. And if that's the case, then we can take our location manager and request location updates using location manager dot GPS provider, 0 for time, 0 for meters, and location listener. There we go. Oh, in fact, I have forgotten something. I need to check if we have the permission again. So I'll copy that up just as we did before. But get the dialog box to request the user's location, and then when they say yes and we update the location, we get this toast appearing on the screen. Let's see. And it looks like I've forgotten a few semicolons. Easily done. So let's have a quick look where those are. Actually, it looks like I don't have enough closing parentheses there. So I actually wanted a closing parenthesis to match that one. I suspect that will solve the problem. So notice the error message isn't necessarily a correct description of what the error is. It can be caused by something a few lines above that's actually different to what Android Studio is claiming. Okay, let's try this again. And here we go. Just a quick word of warning, on the Mac I had to rename the folder name without the and sign in it. So if you have problems with that, just close down the project, rename the folder to remove the and sign, and then load it up again and it should be fine. So here we go. Let's allow the app access to my location. Okay, you can see the map is appearing as expected. And then let's update the location and we should see the new location as a toast. Fingers crossed, there it is. Hurrah! Excellent. So that's all working well. Now we just need to change the code so that instead of displaying a toast, we update the location of the map. So let's move these lines of code up to our toast. And then we want to get the location here. So it's going to be location dot get latitude. Now you hadn't seen before, but hopefully you could have figured that out. It's not too tricky. And then location get longitude. And let's change that from Sydney to user location. And then we'll just change the title to your location. All right, let's give it a try. So we should now find that the app centers on the user's location. Let's find out. Okay, so let's update the location. And there we go. And of course, if the user was traveling around, then this would update every second or so. You'd see a gradual movement of the map as the user moved around. Now you may have noticed one slight issue there. When we launched the app, it didn't zero in on the user's current location. And that's because our code so far only updates the map when the location is changed. So we want to add a little bit of code that gets the user's current location when the app is launched. So we'll do that here. So if the app is launched and we can get the user's location, so we can do that by finding the user's last known location. So let's create a location variable. I'll call it last known location. And we can get that from our location manager and get last known location. There we go, using the provider that we're used to, location manager .gps provider. So that will give us the last known location, and we can then use exactly the same code here, except instead of location, we use last known location with an N on the end to show that value. So let's have a look. Now when we run that, it should start the app in the appropriate location. And there we go. So in exactly the same location it was before, and of course, as we update the location, it updates the app. Aha! But it has shown us a slight issue with our app, that every time we add a marker, we really need to delete the existing markers. And we can do that very easily by simply taking our Google map and clearing it. Simple as that. Obviously you want to do that before you add the new marker, otherwise you'll clear that as well. There we go. So that will now clear all the existing markers from the app and only add the latest one. Excellent. So we now have a great boilerplate app that you can use for any app that requires a map centered on the user's location. Let's just see it in action. So there's our 80. If I change that to 30, then that will update the map. There we go, and move the marker down. Fantastic. So it's time to put our newfound GPS related knowledge into action by building an app that I like to call Hiker's Watch. We'll do that in the next video.